Hello, everyone, and welcome to our training today. Today, we're diving into SBA PPP scams and what to avoid. Look, obviously this year, a lot of business owners have obtained or in the process of obtaining EIDL and PPP loans from the SBA. And as a result, there's a ton of really big scams going on that you need to be aware of. So in this training, we're going to talk about these scams, how to avoid them. So whether or not you haven't got a loan or have got a loan, you don't fall victim to this, because even if you've got a PPP loan, you're still waiting for certain things to happen, probably like your loan to be forgiven. So there's all kinds of scams you can be exposed to. We're going to dive into them today. So for those that don't know me, my name's Ty Crandall. I'm CEO of Credit Suite. If we can help you get financing for your business or build business credit for your EIN that's not linked to your social, give us a ring, 877-600-2487, or get approved for funding with us at creditsuite.com/get funding. Both our number and that link will be at the bottom of our slides. Okay, so let's talk about it. The PPP's program, we're obviously familiar with this. About $350 billion went in at the beginning of COVID-19 to try to give business owners a way to at least get money to navigate this crisis. A lot of businesses shut down overnight, like restaurants and bars, for example, weren't even allowed to be open. So the PPP loan really allowed businesses to be able to come in and be able to get the money they needed to actually navigate this crisis. Now, it was inevitable that as a result of that, there's going to be a lot of scammers that are out there trying to take advantages as well, right? They're everywhere with all kinds of very, very, very intuitive, interesting scams. And PPP moves really quick. A lot of things happen with EIDL and PPP that we haven't seen before. The Treasury got involved in underwriting some of it with EIDL. With PPP, we brought in all these fintech lenders and all these new lenders and new sources. More financing was done in a matter of months than was done in many, many years in SBA. So this leaves a lot of cracks, a lot of holes, a lot of issues for these scammers to kind of come in and infiltrate. So there's two main ways that scammers can try to basically beat the system. One is fraudulent applications for federal funding on your behalf. The other is by targeting small businesses and trying to rip them off once you actually have the funding. So across your demand, well, nearly 10 million new unemployment claims were made for the weeks of March 15th through the 28th. Okay, and businesses large and small are losing a lot of workers right now. And hopefully a lot of this unemployment, of course, is temporary, although I think they're just getting ready to release a report that like 1.5 million more Americans filed for unemployment. But there's a lot of bad actors, right? They're slipping in fraudulent applications into the system right now as a result of this. There's so many businesses in need that it's even easier for fraudsters to kind of put their application in the mix. And the problem with that for you is that they can use a lot of your information to submit applications on your behalf. I don't know if you ever had that happen. I have. I've actually had somebody submit taxes on my own behalf. And now every time I file my own taxes, I need a special PIN number from the IRS to prove they're coming from me. It's a nightmare that will affect me for the rest of my life. And I don't even begin to know how it happened. Okay, so these are the type of things we have to avoid on your end. Now, there's good news. After all the federal funding is limited, federal funding isn't infinite, and just printing up money in most demands invites hyperinflation, which we'll be dealing with soon enough. But again, you've got to be careful here, and we'll talk a little bit more about this, because when they're submitting applications on your behalf, you could be on the hook for funds that you never even received. And Jean Pierre says, I asked Chase if we have a business card, I can register my business name, and they don't offer cards without a personal guarantee. Do you have successful clients who didn't personally guarantee it? Yes, you can, but Jean Pierre, in order to get a Chase card, you'd have to have at least 14 accounts reporting on your business credit reports, with at least one being a $10,000 high to get the corporate credit cards. Chase doesn't have a no personal guarantee corporate credit card right now, but there are many others that do once you get enough trade lines to get there. And Skip says, Ty and the whole Credit Suite team is cutting edge and awesome. The call is free. You won't be disappointed. Thanks, Skip. And he's talking about our consultation call. If we can ever help you with business credit financing, we do have a free consultation where we'll qualify you for all funding, help you get your business credit reports. Our phone number's right on the bottom of our slides. So the CARES Act is still in some flux, and one update has been to raise the interest rate from 0.5% to 1%. And this happened a couple of months back. The idea is to make it easier for community banks to participate and to give the banks some ability to actually profit on this for people that are not getting their loan forgiven and need to pay that money back. And according to the ABA Banking Journal, the lender does not need to conduct any verification if the borrower submits documentation supporting its request for loan forgiveness and attests that has accurately verified the payments for eligible cost. The administration will hold harmless any lender that relies on such borrower documentation attestation for a borrower. So again, you have to be careful, because a lot of people could be submitting this documentation for your behalf to actually the lenders. And again, that opens up all kinds of issues for you. Now, CNN notes, in light of urgent needs, Congress also allowed the SBA to expand eligible lenders who could participate in the program. And we talked a little bit about this. Okay, this really has to come down with fintech lenders now getting the space and leaving more cracks in the system. Look, there's very limited, about 1,200 SBA lenders around the country before all this started. And I don't know what the number is now, but I would imagine that that number doubled or tripled going through PPP. So again, a lot of exposure, a lot of cracks in the system, with us nearly tripling the amount of lenders that are in the space. Now, the SBA and the federal government rightfully want to streamline the process and get cash in the hands of many business owners. But again, that unprecedented volume, inexperienced lenders, a ton of cash, that's where all these scammers are coming from. And of course, they're going to take every opportunity they can to wreak havoc and get as much money from the system as they can. So there are already situations scammers trying to prey upon desperate small business owners. According to the SBA, they do not initiate calls regarding either SBA or disaster loans or grants. You got to be careful here. A lot of people are calling and saying that they are SBA. They're having you submit financial documents for forgiveness. Okay, well, then guess what? They get all your financial documents. You're submitting your payroll documents. You're submitting your tax returns. You're submitting all of this privileged information about your business, who you think is SBA. So this is a very important note. SBA is not going to call you. Okay, it's not going to happen. So if you're getting a call from somebody that pretends to be from SBA, that is not SBA. You do not want to answer their questions. You do not want to submit any income documentation to them. If you are proactively contacted by someone claiming from the SBA, suspect fraud, and that directly comes from SBA. So this is the first thing to look for, is if you're getting contacted by anybody that says they're calling from SBA about the EIDL or PPP loan, a call that none of us have ever received today. So we would probably perk up our ears. If somebody came in and said, hey, look, this is Ty from SBA, and I'm calling because you got a PPP loan, and are you still looking to have that loan forgiven? Of course, people will be like, yeah, I'm looking to have the loan forgiven. Well, here's a list of things that we need submitted ASAP, and we'll get to work on getting that forgiven. That seems like a legitimate phone call that we may get. But you have to be careful, because SBA is not proactively reaching out to anybody. So if you are contacted by someone promising to get an approval or to want income documentation from you to get your loan forgiven, well, then from SBA, then require any kind of payment up front or offer a high interest bridge loan in the interim, you've got to suspect fraud, bottom line. SBA limits the fees a broker can charge, a 3% on loans $50,000 or less, and 2% for loans $50,000 to $1 million, an additional 0.25% on amounts over $1 million. Any attempt to charge more than these fees is inappropriate. And if you have a question, here's SBA's disaster line where you can actually come in and get their customer service. So you can contact them, of course, a long way. But the other thing to keep in mind here, so again, another way you can get scammed is paying way more than you should. Here's what you're allowed to be charged in fees. And the reality is, when PPP loans came out, a lot of people were charging wildly over that amount because people were desperate to get their PPP loans in. Months later, it's not that big of a deal. I think that the demand has slowed down to a point where you can get a PPP loan in. But again, you got to be careful of these fees, because there's a lot of brokers, there's a lot of lenders out there that will charge you more than they're supposed to charge, okay? So you got to be careful with anybody charging more than this 2% for loans of $50,000 or less, or $50,000 to $1 million, an additional 0.25% on loan amounts over that. Okay, so you got to make sure that you're not getting scammed by paying more than you're actually supposed to pay. And here is some information from SBA on their help desk and their customer service emails and phone numbers. So if you have anything that seems suspect and you don't think it's legitimate, you can contact them and get more information. So the SBA also wants small business owners to be on the look for phishing schemes, where fraudsters send official-looking emails to fool an entrepreneur revealing private information. Okay, this information includes passwords, social security numbers, and the like. Again, I kind of touched upon what if somebody calls and says they're from SBA, right? But the other big scam is that people are emailing and saying they're from SBA. And again, this makes a lot of sense. Right now, a lot of us have already got the SBA PPP loans. For those that haven't applied yet or in process, if you get an email or a phone call that says, hey, I got your loan application, it's so-and-so from SBA, I have some questions, a lot of us would probably automatically want to answer those questions because we want that money, right? And we think it's a legitimate phone call. So you have to be careful of these fraudsters calling and claiming to be SBA. We talked about that, but the same thing with emails saying, hey, we got your application. We still need more information. Hey, we see that you got approved for a PPP loan. Remember, a lot of that information is now public information. If you actually got a PPP loan, a lot of that information is now public. So scammers can easily come in and know that you got an SBA PPP loan, and then the next scam is coming in and saying they need information from you for forgiveness. So you have to be very, very, very careful, especially with emails, because they usually choose emails that look like they're legitimate, but they're a play off of what it actually is. So they might have SBA in it, but if you look long enough, it's not really going back to SBA. So Inc. offers 4 helpful ways to determine if someone's trying to scam you or apply for an SBA PPP loan or any other SBA emerging from COVID-19. You can go to inc.com, and I have a pretty big link here, but this will kind of map out some of those ways for you to make sure that you avoid an actual scam. Now, much like SBA warns, scammers may try to contact your business offer to get loans or get loans themselves. That is, as long as you hand over your business credit card or the like other business privilege information. Here's a quote: scammers could use this information to apply for a loan on your behalf, and you'll be on the hook for paying it back. Also note, you can only get one opportunity to apply for a loan, according to Amy Fisher, CEO of Multifunding. If you do receive any notices like this, the Treasury Department recommends contacting the FBI, and that's inc3.gov. So again, multiple problems. A lot of them are going to get your business information and apply for a loan on your behalf, then give them their own bank account information, and then all those funds go in there. And you know what? You can imagine right now, if you're the victim of that scam, how do you get in touch with SBA? I gave you their phone numbers, but can you imagine how overwhelmed that whole entire system is? So it's a nightmare. As a matter of fact, I had a coaching client that actually submitted the wrong information in on revenue and got approved for a fraction of what they could have. Now they're trying to fix it. And that's a nightmare situation, because getting anybody from SBA on the phone right now to help you is a long shot. Okay. So the CARES Act also set up such a way that there are no closing costs. You don't have to pay them or an application fee. If someone claims that you do and you're going to be paying that information, you should at least consider running away or think twice. Now, look, I can't say this in all cases. I can tell you that my own SBA PPP broker charged us a $2,000 application fee. I gladly paid it. I know him. I trust him. And he got our loan done from the minute we submitted the application to funds in our bank within 72 hours, 3 days. And that was in the first week and a half of when these opened up, when nobody could get them, right? So some will charge you fees. And if you do legitimate and you find they're legitimate, you want to pay the fee like then pay the fee. But you got to be careful. This is a red flag. These application fees, these upfront fees, these closing costs, charging more than they should. These things could mean you're getting ripped off by the lender or bank broker, or if they're even a legitimate funding source, they may be just taking the money, dangling a carrot, acting like they can get a loan done that's difficult to get done, and then they take your money and they cut and run. So some things to look out for. Now, the SBA is relaxing a number of its rules, but even though a lender does not have to be a preferred lender, they do have to have applied for preferred lender status. So as Dink suggests, try working with a bank with which you already have a relationship. Seems easy. In the beginning, it wasn't. Okay, but now it's a little bit easier. So if you have a relationship, then that definitely gives you an advantage, but you have to be careful and make sure that this broker is even able to apply for SBA loans. I know somebody in the fintech space that collected 20,000 applications and they never even had a lender lined up. They never even had the ability to place the loans. And all these people missed out on that first round of funding because they submitted it to somebody they thought was reputable, but the company wasn't doing the right thing. They were collecting applications without an ability to place those loans. So that kind of thing was happening a lot behind the scenes. Now as things died down, not as much. But it really helps if you're working with a banker or a broker that you know. Ruben Booker comes in from Periscope and says, thank you for giving us. Look forward to working with you. Same here. Marlon says, like the IRS doesn't call you. Yes. And Marilyn actually said, Marilyn says exactly the same thing, right? We all know these phishing schemes where somebody calls and says they're from the IRS and you owe money and they're going to call the police and have you arrested. So good point. And Ken says Ty is a guy still doing the PPP application. He is. You can go to creditsuite.com/PPP and get my guy, my broker, SBA broker. He charges you 1% of the total loan is what you're going to get. And I'll be the first to tell you, Ken, you don't have to pay 1%. Go to any lender. You can get a PPP loan. You don't have to pay the fee that we paid. And then the $2,000 we paid came out of the 1% that we owed on the back end. I didn't care. When these PPP loans came in, I was willing to pay our guy to be able to get us preferential treatment, and that's what I paid for. But yeah, you can access him, Ken, at creditsuite.com/PPP. So can online lenders participate in SBA PPP? They're trying. A lot of fintech lenders, as I mentioned. Recently, 22 fintech lenders, such as sent a letter, Majority Leader McConnell, to actually talk about this. We seek no gain from this crisis. We only aim to protect the millions of small business owners that we are proud to call our customers. And again, a lot of these online lenders started to get approved for these loans. Okay, Credit Suite's already reviewed the following signatories to the letter. Okay, Blue Vine, Credibility, Fundbox, Fundera, Funding Circle, Cabbage, Lendio, On Deck. These guys are all okay to offer PPP loans. I'm not saying they're the only ones. I'm just saying these are the ones that we've reviewed and that they are signed off to actually offer PPP loans outside of the main banks. These guys have been vetted. These are okay to submit applications with, as well as submitting them through your bank. So you decide. Now, people have asked, should I submit a PPP application to two places? I can tell you we did. We submitted to our bank. We submitted it to our SBA lender, and neither one of them on the first round of funding got things done. Neither one of them did. So then when it came back, and then about a week and a half, 2 weeks in the process, then we went with our SBA broker and he got us done within 3 days. So if you're having problems with your bank, here's some fintech lenders who could offer you some alternatives. Here's some others as well. Biz2Credit, BFS Capital, Innova International, Fair, 5 Stars, Fund Rocket, Get Upside, and Homebase. So these have all been vetted. These are actually approved lenders that can help you with SBA loans outside of your own bank. These are called fintech lenders. They're alternative lenders that typically do most of their business offline. Here's some others. Lending Tree, Middesk Played, 7 Rooms, Signpost, Thanks, Veeam, Wisely, and Womply. So here's some others that you have some options. So I'm giving you like a ton, like 20, 30 different fintech options. If your primary bank can't help you, these are some sources that you want to look into as well. Now, unfortunately, there are a ton of predatory lenders out there, according to Inc. If a company or person is telling you they can get you an SBA loan under the new PP in a matter of hours, you got to steer clear. Lenders are still waiting on guidance on how to process these. A lot of them, they have that guidance now, but even then, it's still been difficult. So this isn't something easy. I can tell you that we got ours in 72 hours. It's the fastest I've heard anybody getting them. I'm not saying it was the fastest, but I'm saying in our world, that's the fastest from anybody we've heard get these loans. So somebody's telling you they can get that money within hours. They're playing off your desperation. So let's talk about federal funding and federal oversight. On April 2nd, 2020, Speaker of the House announced the formation of a committee concerning the coronavirus. This includes a $2 trillion relief package and the SBA PPP program. Per CNBC, Speaker Pelosi said the committee will root out waste, fraud, and abuse and protect against price gouging, profiteering, and political favorism. Congress has added an inspector general and congressional oversight post to monitor how Treasury Secretary Stephen Mnuchin uses the money. The law also includes limits on stock buybacks, dividends, and executive compensation for companies that receive taxpayer bailout. But will this oversight be enough? We don't know, right? All this is new, but I want you to at least know what's being done on the lender or government side to try to look out for these scams as well. So again, there is not just the SBA, the government's getting involved too, trying to set up a watch force to be able to actually keep an eye on any of these scams and give you some layer of protection. Now, as the situation continues to unfold, we're going to see a lot more changes. We're going to see a lot more scams. Nuances and details are likely to be updated, and we want to help steer clear of those scams and cheats. Like I said, the newest scam, the newest cheat is asking you for income documentation by email or by phone to get your loan forgiven, right? That's the newest scam. A lot of the scams are still out there for people applying for loans, but since so many applied, got approved, now the big scam that we're seeing is moving on to them contacting you and talking to you more about actually sending income documentation to get your loan actually forgiven, and then using that information to apply for all kinds of other loans and then direct that funding to their own bank account, okay? So a lot of scammers out there. Hopefully this gives you a pretty good idea of what to do. I've given you a lot of reputable fintech lenders. I've given you a link to my SBA broker. You can use your own banks. Those are people that you can trust, right? So on top of that, if you're working with somebody you don't know, that's okay. You just have to really do your due diligence to make sure you're working with the real person, real lender, etc. Okay, I was exposed to a scam once and I didn't fall for it. But what happened was the company represented themselves as a legitimate company, gave their website, gave everything. It all added up. But then somewhere in the process, then their email and everything changed over to a variation of the company they actually said they were representing. You got to look out for stuff like that, okay? They might come in and say they're from a legitimate lender, and they give you their website, they give you all these things, everything adds up. But then in the process, they kind of change and their email becomes a variation of that. And then all of a sudden they start giving you different places to send money, send funds, send documentation, your credit card information, etc. You have to be really, really, really careful of that because again, those are just some of the many kinds of scams that are out there. So let's avoid phone calls from SBA. They're not going to call you. Let's avoid emails from SBA. They're not going to email you. You're not going to send information through email or give information to people over the phone that we haven't vetted and we absolutely know who they are. So the minute anybody calls or emails you and tells you from their SBA, you should be suspicious because SBA is not calling or emailing anybody. Before you send any income documentation, any information to any lender, whether it be to get a PPP loan or whether it be to get forgiveness, you need to do your due diligence as well. And again, the best safe bet you have is to use somebody legitimate that you know is credible. I've given you a list of a lot of fintech lenders as well as your own lender as well. If we can help you with any financing, let us know. We don't charge you to help you with loans and credit lines. Honestly, there's a ton of financing available right now outside of SBA loans. So if you're kind of sick and tired of PPP and EIDL and you've already been down those roads, there's all kinds of funding you can also get. Give us a ring at CreditSuite or 877-600-2487. Or just go to creditsuite.com/get funding to actually get approved. Okay, if you got value from this, do me a favor, like the video, love the video, give it a share. That way more people can see it. And you can also access our information on the top right of our page. We go live Tuesday and Thursday at 1 Eastern, 11 o'clock Eastern on Wednesday with all this kind of training, business credit scores, how to get business credit, how to get financing, how to avoid scams. So if we can help you get money for your business, feel free to give us a call as well, 877-600-2487. We'll help you get $250 worth of business credit reports at no cost. Help do an assessment on how fundable your business is and tell you all the money you can get right now. Okay, so there's a lot of things that happen on that consultation. Feel free to give us a ring, 877-600-2487, or get approved for funding at creditsuite.com/get funding. Remember the things we talked about today so you don't fall victim to a PPP scam and have your information used to funnel all kinds of money into other people's accounts that you're on the hook for. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.